Good morning and hello, everybody from Jacksonville, Florida. I am excited to welcome you all here to our masterclass today. Some of you I know, some of you I don't know. We're really excited that you're here. Our value and goal today is simply to give you guys stuff to learn, walk away with, and apply. This is all geared towards brokers and leaders in the industry. So we hope that you'll just be making a lot of notes. We welcome, since we're a small group, we welcome a lot of participation. And if you have a question, put it in the chat or raise your hand or interrupt us and let us hear from you and what we can do to support you guys. So if you guys wouldn't mind in the chat, if you will drop where you're coming from today, let us know where you're at so we know who we're talking to. All right, so now I'm going to have a chance to introduce our speaker today. He has written and designed this masterclass specifically for us, brokers and leaders in the industry. And he has created some really cool, unique content that I think you're going to take a lot away from. He's a specialist when it comes to working with agents at their level, using their language. I'm not going to take any of his content away. I'm going to let him have it. So Brent Scott, take it away. All you, buddy.
Hey, thank you very much, Jen. I appreciate it. Hello, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Brent Scott. I'm a real estate professional with over 18 years of experience. And at this stage in my career, am I getting a feedback?
Yeah, I think, are you and Betsy in the same place?
I'm on mute.
Oh, Betsy's on mute. No, you're not. I just heard you.
There she is.
Whoop. There you go. Oh.
All right. Is this a little bit better?
There you go.
Outstanding. All right. So, like I said, at this stage in my career, I've got the opportunity to guide real estate agents full-time as a coach and instructor. And I also partner with coaches, team leaders, and brokers to help them serve their blue ocean agents. So a little bit about me. Today, we're going to talk about how to reach agents at their level. And so I appreciate your time and investing your time with me today. We are going to have a couple of slides that we're going to take a look at. If you would like to go ahead and download the handout that I have prepared for this conversation, please feel free to do so. Jen, I think you're putting the link to the handout in the chat as well. And so this will give you all of the presentation slides, the DISC paper test, the behavior interpretations, things of that nature. So please feel free to download that information so that you don't have to meticulously take notes, okay? So first question, who's heard the expression, do unto others as you would have them do unto you? Has anybody heard that expression? Give me a nickname for that expression.
The golden rule.
The golden rule. Somebody give me another nickname for that expression. The second commandment, right? Okay, so we're all familiar with the golden rule. What's the platinum rule? Who's heard of the platinum rule?
Is it in the Bible?
I'm sorry?
Is it in the Bible?
Nope, not in the Bible. Jeff, you're getting ready to say something?
I was just saying, not me. I've not heard of it.
All right. Well, if the golden rule is treat others the way you would want to be treated, the platinum rule is to treat others the way they would want to be treated. Okay? Treat others the way they would want to be treated. And so let me ask you, what's an example of a situation or an experience where you were treated the way that somebody else wanted to be treated? I'll ask again. Give me an example of a time that you were treated the way that somebody else wanted to be treated.
I would say when somebody just makes assumptions and doesn't ask any questions.
Okay, give me a real world. When have you experienced that personally?
Gosh, I don't know, because I speak up a lot. I would say, being thrown in a situation where I was expected to perform in a certain way, but I didn't have clear expectations. It was just kind of like they assumed I would know in a leadership position. Let's just say that.
Okay. All right. So they assumed that you were going to act the way that they would have acted if they were in that position, right?
Right.
Okay. Can anybody give me an example of a time where you were treated the way that you wanted to be treated? Maybe a luxury hotel or an amazing fast food experience, something.
I will tell you, this is personal, but in my marriage, I'm married to a guy who understands my love language. And so he knows that doing the dishes is my love language. It is not his. But him acting in my love language is how I want to be treated. And I know that takes extra work for him to do that because that's not his love language. So in marriage, I see that happen a lot, both ways, the golden rule and the platinum rule.
Yeah. Yeah. Aaron, you were going to say something.
I was just going to say, just from a dealership standpoint, taking my car down to the dealer, the VIP service that I received was just phenomenal. And so like, I'm a fan forever now.
Yeah. Yeah. Your favorite high level service dealership. They know who you are. They know what type of coffee you drink, right? You know,
Exactly.
You feel it when you're being treated the way that you want to be treated, right? Why is the platinum rule important in business?
In order to give great customer service and have people to keep coming back, you have to provide that, because if not, you're not going to last in business much longer.
And who defines what somebody's great customer service is?
The customer.
The customer. Exactly. And in leadership, who is our customer?
Our team members.
Our team members, our agents, our support staff. Exactly. And so how do you figure out how somebody wants to be treated?
Ask them.
Novel concept, right? What are some other ways?
I'm a fan of Dave Ramsey, and he begins a lot of what he says by, if I woke up this morning in your shoes, this is what I would do. So I guess it's a matter of really waking up in their shoes, thinking how would that person need to respond, or how does that person need to hear this?
Yeah. Yeah. What's their behavior style? How do they receive information? What resonates with them and what turns them off, right? I mean, we know with nonverbal communication cues that we can say the same thing two completely different ways and have it received two completely different messages, right?
Exactly.
And so learning somebody's behavior style is very important. Let me ask you, how do we teach agents to learn the behavior styles of their clients? Like, what are some of the things that we tell our agents to do in order to learn the client's behavior style, in order to connect with them at their level?
Ask a lot of questions.
Yeah, ask great questions, right? Do we teach our agents mirroring and matching? Has anybody heard that concept of mirroring and matching?
Yeah.
Right? If somebody folds their hands, then you might fold your hands. If somebody's open and expressive, then you might be open and expressive, right? So let me ask you a question. How do you use the platinum rule when engaging with your agents? What are some of the things that you do intentionally to deliver the platinum rule to your agents?
Well, if you have somebody that moves a little slower and is very analytical, you're going to relate to them probably differently than you relate to somebody who wants to move really fast. Because everybody is not on the same timeline. Sorry, my wall is moving. Yes.
Foundation problem.
Yeah, yes it is. Yes, it is. I need to get a structural engineer over here right now.
Or some double-sided tape.
It's actually bunnies rattling the cage behind me.
Your bunnies are awesome. I love your bunnies. Go ahead, Aaron.
One thing I was going to say, someone told me this years ago, that we have to be like a chameleon to be able to adapt to everyone. And so to piggyback on what Mary Lou just said, if you have someone that is just very slow and kind of like go from A to Z before they get to C, you just have to mirror that and speak their language. And someone that's direct like myself, cut out all of the nonsense and get straight to the point.
So tailoring your communication style. 100%.
Thinking a little upstream from here, maybe this isn't part of the scope of this presentation, but I think it a lot matters who you attract. And so as you're looking for the next team member, who has the style that you work with well, and are you attracting the people that you feel like you can relate to the best? So that probably has a lot to do with your success level once they're on your team.
Yes, if you set out with intention when you're growing your team to take into consideration the behavior styles, the personality styles of the applicants that you are interviewing, right? The role that you are looking to fill typically has an innate behavior style that is most successful in that role. And so if we can identify what the role is and what the appropriate behavior style is for a successful person in that role, then we can use that in our evaluation and search. So I love what you said there, Jeff. Thank you very much. So let's switch gears a little bit. What aspect of an agent's business are impacted by their behavior style? What components of an agent's business are impacted by their behavior style?
Well, lead generation for sure.
How so?
Well, in how, what will be their propensity to lead generate, for one? How will they want to communicate with other people? Meaning, kind of what is their style, their personality style when it comes to outreach, follow up? All of those things are dictated by their own personal style.
So lead generation. What else?
Face-to-face communications.
Yeah. Yeah. How do they communicate effectively? What else? What about the overall structure of their business? If you have a high D person, right, somebody that's just out there running and gunning and leave no prisoners and sometimes leaving a wake of destruction in their path, what type of support would you need to make sure you provide that agent? Transaction coordination, somebody to do the mundane, tedious stuff, right? Because if there's not somebody to do it, then they will pull their hair out trying to get it done and it'll be a mess, typically, right?
Yep.
So what systems do you use to understand the behavior styles of your agents? Is anybody using any systems to understand or help them gain clarity into the behavior styles of their agents?
That's why I'm here this morning.
Well,
Yes.
Jeff, we are going to bring you amazing value. Thank you, Betsy. I appreciate them. I appreciate that. So one of the systems that I lean very heavily towards is the Abelson DISC system. And when I'm sharing my screen, I can't see everybody's faces. And so if you can use your show of hands or your like, I don't know, gestures or whatever they're called, raise hands. Who's familiar with DISC? Okay, a couple of you. All right, Jen, thank you. So this is kind of an overview of DISC. And so the way that we think about the DISC behavior styles are that everybody has typically 4 different types of behaviors. And these behaviors are part of us all the time, right? We're not one behavior or another. We are a combination of all 4 of these behaviors. And within the behavior realm, there are natural behavior styles and there are adaptive behavior styles. And so when we talk about DISC, the first thing that we want to understand is, what is somebody's natural behavior style? How would they naturally behave in a comfortable environment? If they were just hanging out on their couch, what would they look like? Okay. And natural behavior styles are typically pretty fixed. We are who we are. Having said that, natural behavior styles if they do change, it's typically as a result of a major life event. So has anybody ever experienced a major life event to where before that event, you might be one type of personality, and after that event, you were a different type of personality? Has anybody, somebody share with me, if you're willing to get a little transparent, a little vulnerable, somebody share with me a life event that you came out the other side a little bit different.
I will say a realtor function. You know, you go in, and I'm pretty sure we've all experienced this, whereas, you know, we go to these events, and as we're working the room or whatever, we change our style to connect with those people. And so me being a deep personality, and at the same time, I can be an introvert. I prefer, that's my comfort zone. But then when I go into that event, I know that I have to mingle and interact with other people. I walk out feeling, I guess, more of an extrovert in a sense, because I put myself out there to, you know, get to know those people. Is that kind of like where you were going, or?
So Aaron, I appreciate that. And that would be a perfect example of a transition from a natural to an adaptive behavior style. And we're going to talk about that in just a moment. When we talk about a natural behavior style, I'll share candidly, personally for me, one of a major life events that I had was when I shut down my brokerage. It was my second huge failure in my 18 years in real estate. I've had a couple of fails. And one of the most impactful was that I shut down my brokerage, and I decided to let my broker's license go null and void because it was so impactful. And I just decided back in 2010, I would never let real estate break my heart again. And it hasn't. I love it. And yet before I shut down my brokerage, I was very forward movement, very go, 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 grind, grind, grind. And it was at the sacrifice of my family. It was at the sacrifice of time with my spouse. I sacrificed some things that impacted my world. And when I shut her down, I realized that the grind, the relentless pursuit for growth at the expense of my relationships with the people that were important to me, that was not a sacrifice I was willing to make. And so I came out of that experience shifting from more of a D, more of a direct doer behavior, to more of an S. I was more of a, I got to focus on the relationships, because the relations. So that was a major life event to where my natural behavior kind of shifted. In the process of shuttering that brokerage, that was 3 months into my wife and I separating. And I was living out of the back office, out of the back room in my office. And I realized that my relentless pursuit at the sacrifice of the relationships, that wasn't what I was going to continue with. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and so I can 100% relate to that. And so I guess mine would be the complete opposite of what you just said, because I experienced that. So I get where you're going now. Makes perfect sense.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can I ask a question, Brent?
Please.
So do people act differently at home than they do at work? Will sometimes certain things come out more at home than they do at job? Because you said something about somebody being at home and just sitting on their couch. So I'm wondering if you see a difference between people at home versus work.
So the way that I explain it and understand it is that it has more to do with stress load. So if I'm just being me, whether that's at home, at work, in the car, I'm just jamming out down the road, wherever my mind, whatever I'm typically in the mode of thinking and doing, that's my natural behavior style. When I'm under stress, when I am being observed or watched, when I am expected to perform, then my behavior style, and many people's behavior styles, shifts a little bit to a little bit different mode. And that's what Aaron was talking about when he was talking about going into networking events. In those types of situations, he may shift more to a personable behavior style because that's what he's expected to do in that environment. And so there is an adaptive behavior style that this is how people see themselves needing to behave. If somebody comes to them, are they under stress? Are they the talker? Are they the doer? Are they the planner? Or are they the, hey, everybody, let's just be happy, right? Does that make sense? And
Yes.
so and you may have seen a couple of different samples or styles of DISC behavior assessment graphs. The handouts that I gave or provided will give you the paper version that will help you do this bottom type of graph. And so when we start talking about behavior styles, there are 4 main personality or behavior styles that DISC focuses on. The first one is the dominant, and I like to use birds as kind of a visual representation. And so the dominant behavior style is the eagle. You know they are there, they are majestic, they are big, they are larger than life, things of that nature. Can anybody think of people that you have in your world that maybe exhibit this dominant behavior style on a regular basis?
I see it on TV on Shark Tank.
Yep. Are any of you potentially that dominant behavior style by nature? Yeah, maybe a little.
Me.
So what are some of the strengths of the D behavior style?
Decisive.
Yeah.
Effective, direct.
Yeah. Yep. Those are huge strengths in some roles and responsibilities, right?
Yes, they also can leave a lot of bodies though in the wake.
And so what are some of the weaknesses? They can steamroll over people, right?
Yep.
What are some other weaknesses of the dominant behavior style?
Maybe perceived not caring or too focused on, the end game.
And forgetting about people, not seeing people.
Yeah.
Not intentionally, but like Jen said, because of the fact that you're focused on what's going on, the mission.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're focused on the win, focus on the goal. And people in the world need to be focused on the goal. They need to be moving forward, right? But sometimes that's at the detriment of the relationship.
We miss a lot of details.
High Ds can sometimes miss a lot of details, right? Because they're fast moving, they're ready for the next step and then the next step and the next step because they want to get to the end. But what about those little fine details in steps 2, 3, and 7? Yeah, who needs them, right?
Are y'all attacking me?
I'm sorry?
Are y'all attacking me? I feel attacked.
No. There is a huge need in the world and in leadership. I mean, the reality is that these are some of the most successful people in the world are the ones that are just out there doing, grinding, leading others, right? Huge need for Ds in the world. Okay. Let's talk about the Is. These are the influencers. These are the parrots. These are the ones that are seen. They're beautiful. They're visible. You hear them. They tap. They're loud, right? What are some strengths for Is?
They're a lot of fun.
It can be a lot of fun. Yes, absolutely. What else?
They're not afraid to talk to anybody.
Oh, no. Nope. They'll go up and tell you anything that they have to say, right? What else? What are some other strengths?
They get along with all people.
They get along with all people. Yeah, they want to influence, right? Good presenters are oftentimes high Is because they want to influence. They want to go out. They're not afraid to get in front of a crowd and talk to people. Got a little bit of a high I in my world personally. Let's talk about the S's. These are the stable people, right? These are the doves. What are some, oh, wait a minute. I forgot to ask a question. What are some of the weaknesses of high I people?
They forget the details.
They can forget the details, yes, because they're out talking, right? What are some other weaknesses?
Sometimes they don't listen.
Yeah, yeah. I like to use the 2 ears and 1 mouth expression with high I people. You get twice as many of these than you do as these, so do this twice as much, right? Teaching people to slow down and listen. Those high I's, they can sometimes have challenges with that. So the S's, the stable people, what are some of the strengths of S's?
Calm.
Yeah, these are the people that just want everybody to be happy, right? I mean, these are the mama bears and the, you know, they want the calm, they want the stable, they're there to support. These are typically the people that are more interested in having a 30-minute conversation with one person than having 10 5-minute conversations, right? Which is a lead gen thing. We need to take that into consideration. What are some of the weaknesses of high S people?
May not take action when necessary.
Yeah, they are way more interested in the relationships and sitting around and having conversations and getting to know people and creating those bonds than they are actually going out and working, right?
They don't like changes.
They oftentimes don't like changes. Yeah, they want the stability, the consistency, the, you know, and sometimes it's not as much change as it is difficult or abrasive change, right? Quick change. Sometimes S's can really help you work through change because they can kind of keep everybody happy.
Mhm.
But if it's quick or sudden or radical, then that might throw them for a pretty big loop. Yeah, absolutely. And then finally, our C's, our cautious people. These are the owls, right? One of my favorite character descriptions of a C personality is like a computer coder, right? Somebody that you keep them in a dark room with, you slide pizza under the door and they spend days and days with Red Bull and pizza by themselves, just writing lines of code, right? High C people. What are some strengths for high C behavior styles?
They love details.
They love details. Yeah, they love systems.
They want to be on top of all the new technology.
They oftentimes very much do. They want to be on the forefront of knowledge. They're out there gaining all of the facts.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was going to say that facts really matter.
Yeah, facts matter. These people are not influenced by how they feel. And these people certainly are not going to listen to you unless they believe that there is logic and data behind what you're saying, right? What are some of the weaknesses behind the cautious people?
Can be too analytical.
Analysis
Facts matter
paralysis?
too much.
What's that?
Sorry, facts matter too much.
Yeah.
It's a strength and it can be a weakness too.
Yep. Analysis paralysis, right?
Mhm.
I have to know every step of the process before I even take the first step, right? How many times have we had agents that wouldn't even go and show a property because they didn't know how to write the contract or close the transaction? You're not there yet. Just go show the property. We'll get you there when you need to write that contract, right? High C, they need to know what the process looks like from start to finish. And a lot of times that's because they don't want to look uninformed when somebody asks them, well, what happens when they say yes? Or what happens when we get to this point? If they don't have that answer, then they're rattled, right? And so when you're talking about the behavior styles, you will see that there are some things that different personalities or different behavior styles have in common. For instance, the D and the I, you'll see that up here at the top, it talks about outgoing. These are your more outgoing people. These are the people that will go out and shake the babies and kiss the hands and do all of those types of things. I say that backwards on purpose just to see who's listening to me. These are the outgoing people. These are the ones that will go out and have the conversations probably more than other people would want them to sometimes, right? Whereas the C's and the S's, they're the more reserved ones. They're the ones that are kind of sitting back in the corner, having the one-on-one long chats and things of that nature. Your dominant and cautious people, the D's and C's, they are very task oriented, right? They want to get stuff done. It's get it done next, get it done next. Let's make the tasks happen. Checklists, those are awesome. Seeing that they have made progress towards something, that's very important to D's and C's. Whereas the I's and S's, they're more people oriented. They're kind of like, yeah, you know, I just want to have fun and hang out and be cool and those types of things. So when we talk about behavior styles and when we learn and understand more about the behavior styles of our agents, how can you use this to impact your business? How can you use this to impact your agent's business?
Well, it will help, for one, with retention, because you're speaking their language, you know, and they'll feel a connection with you. They'll feel like, you know, hey, my broker really cares about me, you know, versus I'm just a number to them.
Has anybody ever heard the concept that people leave organizations not because of the money, yet more often because of the culture? Right? And so if we want to retain our people, do we need to speak their language, speak their love language, know how to treat them, know how to connect with them, provide them the resources? Yeah, absolutely. Some other ways that we can use this knowledge and this insight about our agents to help impact their business. Let's think of the 4 main pain points, right? Growth, retention, productivity, and profitability, right? So go ahead. Somebody was unmuting, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's really powerful when you give an agent permission to be themselves in this business. I think a lot of agents look at Instagram and Facebook and they're like, I have to be like this person in order to be successful. And then what happens is they run up against the activities that person is doing that are not in alignment with their own style. And they feel unworthy, or they feel like they're losers, or they feel like they're failing. It's really powerful when you give an agent, when you acknowledge their personality style and you give them actual real tools to use and ways that they can use, lead generate and build their business with their own personality and style. It's amazing, the permission, that just giving them permission to do that and say, who are you and how do we align better with who you are? It's powerful.
I love that. I love that. Yeah. When we talk about, well, let's talk about growth. Right. And so in your handouts, in the downloadable PDF, when you click on like value to the team, it will take you to another page that will give you some very detailed breakout of some of the values that particular behavior styles bring to the team. Yet, let me ask you, when you're thinking about growing your team, growing your organization, what are some values that you think a high D personality would bring to an organization?
Leadership.
Leadership. What aspect of leadership? Because that's a broad umbrella.
Organizing, planning, looking into the future, etc.
So looking forward progress, right? The big picture. We are on the path to get to here, and that is what our focus is, right?
Yes.
So what value they bring to the team, that's very important to understand as you are growing your team, right? Likewise, be mindful of their limitations, both real and perceived, right? Perceived limitations can be much more impactful than real limitations. And so, you know, sometimes those high Ds, they overstep authority. And that's something that you got to take into consideration when you're growing your team. They're going to challenge, they're going to push the boundaries. And if you're not ready to handle that, if you don't have the systems in place to manage that, then bringing somebody into that organization can tax your resources. And ultimately, as brokers and owners, it can create liability issues, right? So when you are growing your team, take into consideration what is that avatar? What does that picture of this role look like? And what are those values and those limitations that I need to take into consideration with different behavior styles? And then, Aaron, you talked about retention. What is an effective communication strategy or style for different behavior styles? So with eyes, right? How do you think you need to communicate with a high I personality?
Just mirror them. You know what type of person they are. So I can't be direct and to the point because I'm gonna lose them.
And I think compliment them.
Yes.
I mean, that's what I like. It's like, tell me I'm doing a good job.
Call them out in a public setting like Facebook or Instagram.
Yep. Absolutely. Be visible, right? They want recognition. They want people to see them and recognize that they're being seen, right? And be enthusiastic with them. If you are communicating with a high I personality, don't come to a high I personality with, hi, I'm going to need to make sure that you finish the checklist before you turn in the documents, or else we're going to have problems. Right?
Right.
Yeah. High I is going to what, who, why? Yeah. Okay, great. I'll do whatever you need me to do. Bye-bye. And they're going to go be a parrot. Right? Okay. The receptivity style, right? How do agents receive information, right? So high Ds, they want the facts, they want the bullet points, and they want to move on. They do not want a 30-minute conversation about something that is trivial or inconsequential to them, right? Whereas that high S, they want to talk for 30 minutes about anything. They just want to have a conversation, right? Drive a D nuts. Their emotional needs. What are the emotional needs of these agents? You know, how do you need to show up as a leader? What leadership style do they most gravitate towards? Okay, if your leadership style does not match their behavior style, then maybe they need to be led by somebody else who on that organization could be a leader in your stead. You know, for teams, that could be lead buyers agents. And for organizations, that could be an executive administrative assistant that has got that high S, high C component that can keep all of the people that are working for you happy for you while you're out there running and gunning. Productivity, right? Help agents structure their business to play to their strengths. And we talk about lead generation. Jen, you talked about that earlier. We have to know what people are naturally going to gravitate towards from a lead generation perspective so that we can help them structure their business to play to those strengths, right? Don't expect a high S to door knock 100 doors in 2 hours. They will get through 7 because in the first 7, they will find 3 people and spend 45 minutes apiece having conversations with those 3 people. And that may be very successful, but that didn't get 100 doors knocked, right? So play to their strengths, understand what they're motivated by, their fears, right? What's a C's biggest fear? What do you think a C's biggest fear could be?
To be wrong.
To be wrong. To not have a clear path to follow.
I was getting ready to say not having all the details.
Not having all the details. Just go do it and we'll figure it out. C's will be like, no, no, no. Okay. So what are those fears? How do we as leaders need to avoid those fears? And then the learning styles of your agents. Different behavior styles have different learning styles, whether it be tactile or audio or visual or experiential learning, right? Those are things that we as leaders really need to take into consideration as we are growing our organization. The profitability, you know, if I'm not creating an ideal environment for someone, then they are not going to be as productive as they could be in their ideal environment, which means that they are going to bring less profit to my organization. That's why those transaction coordinators need their own office, because they don't want people popping their head in and saying, hi, how are you? No, 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 get away from me. I've got checklists that I'm working. Right? Help each other, areas of growth, and especially time management. Who's really good at time management, DIS or C? C. Who's really not good at time management?
I,
I,
Time schmime, I just want to go out and talk to people, right? Absolutely. We talked about lead generation. This is one of the resources that we have here at the locker room. It's our lead generation by behavior style. And so it's very important to help agents identify their behavior styles so that they can tie their lead generation activity into their behavior styles, both from a prospecting and marketing perspective. And along with the behavior-based lead generation resources, we also have some other resources within the Locker Room University, ways to help our agents understand how to communicate with their clients based upon their DISC behavior style. And in fact, Mary Lou Dingman, one of our growth partners, is a certified DISC trainer. And so Mary Lou has a lot of resources available for you from a DISC perspective. So if you're looking for some resources and some opportunities to implement the DISC into your organization, into your agents' lives and everything like that, definitely let us know. We can certainly help you with that. And again, I've given you access to all of these slides and like 70 pages, 60 or 70 pages of information about DISC, including a paper DISC test. So please feel free to utilize any of those resources as well. So share with me some takeaways. What are some of the things that you heard, or what are some of the new perspectives that you've gotten from our conversation today?
I actually
Yeah.
had an aha, and I was reminded, and I just stepped on somebody, and I apologize. I had a coaching appointment set up with an agent, and I had my agenda of what I wanted to get through. I wanted to talk about her goals, and she had just had a deal fall apart. And when she came into my office, it's like, and that's what's making me think of this platinum rule. I had my agenda of what we were going to talk about, and she came in and she's like, I'm in the middle of a really bad transaction. And I remember I put everything aside. I just pushed it out of the way, and I just leaned forward and listened to her. And to this day, she still tells me that that was one of the best one-on-one meetings she ever had with me, because I threw everything out the window and gave her what she really needed at that moment. And so that is kind of what made me think of the platinum rule.
Yes.
When you
Yes.
said that.
I appreciate you saying that, MLD. And that is absolutely, if we understand what their behavior styles are, and we understand that sometimes they're not acting the way that they normally act, that's called that adaptive behavior style. And that adaptive behavior style can be very impactful in moments of stress, right? And so that person that is normally a high I and very talkative, if they're under an amount of stress, they may revert back to, I'm not going to say anything until I know what the plan is, right? And in agents' worlds, that can be very impactful. As leaders, that can be very challenging, because we've got to be ready to pivot, right? MLD, I know you as a high I, and for you to be intentional about reading that energy and then pivoting away from your natural how you would treat them into their how they needed to be treated in that moment, that is absolutely the mark of individual leadership. And it takes a lot of practice. So thank you for sharing that. Somebody else, a couple of other, yeah, you had to, sometimes the high eyes just got to shut up. And some other takeaways.
Well, I wanted to say, Brent, that this is just such a good reminder we get stuck in our natural behaviors and we don't see, all of us get into our natural thing. And I think one of my blind spots as a high D is I don't recognize my impact on others. I have to be very conscientious about it. But one of the things I wanted to add, I don't know if this fits in with what you're talking about, Brent, and of course my yard guys are coming right now, so I'll make it quick. Sometimes our agents depend on our opposite disc profile to help them get through what they need to get through. I find that one of the values I bring to the people, the brokers I coach, is that sometimes if they're a high I, they need me to be a high D for them in that moment. But what I've learned is I ask for permission. I ask them, what do you need from me right now? Because we can walk through this and create a plan, or do you need me to listen? What is it you need from me right now? Because I want to deliver what they need. So sometimes you just ask people, hey, I know the solution and I can give this to you in 30 seconds flat, but I need your permission first. So just wanted to add that. Now I'm going to mute so you don't hear my yard guys.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that, Jen. It's, you know, do you need the A to Z or do you need the next step? Right? That's another way to look at it. Because if you just need to know what to do next, then you're going to really get frustrated if I spend half an hour showing you what to do and where that leads to and why you should do it and how to implement it and everything like that. So yeah, asking them what they need in the moment, especially when you're dealing with that adaptive behavior, critical. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I think Karen had something to add, but Karen, did you want to add something?
I forgot now.
Oh, I saw you come off mute, so I just wanted to make sure we didn't skip over you.
Thank you. That's all right, Katrina.
Okay. I would say, Brent, you know, something that, because I am always looking for the action item in a conversation when somebody comes to me, especially my agents, that I just ask them, are you just sharing with me or do you need me to help you problem solve? So that way I know, like, am I just going to be an attentive listener? Do they just need to vent and kind of just get it off their chest? Do they need me to help them find a solution, or are they bouncing something off me for some other ideas? That way I know, because if I don't ask that, I'm just like waiting for the action item. Like, where do I jump in here and like, where's my action item, right? So
yeah,
that
if they need to be a high I and they need you to listen, or if they need to be a high C and they need you to tell them,
mm-hmm.
and you show up as a high D saying, just do this, then you're missing the mark completely, right? And so you're absolutely spot on. Recognizing, and a coach friend of mine, Coach Keith Dean, he has 6 or 8 hats, and one hat is like father, and one hat's coach, and one hat's brother, and one hat's BFF, and he literally has these hats, and he will put on the physical hat based upon what his agents need in that moment, right? Because he wants to deliver the platinum rule to them. And so that is a great, and although I haven't made the hats, I oftentimes in conversations at least think to myself, if not vocalize to who I'm talking about, hey, what hat do I need to be wearing right now? That's awesome. So what are you going to implement? We've gotten some takeaways in just the last moment or two. What's one thing that you're going to implement? What are you going to do?
We're in a very much a growth stage. We're attracting agents. And so at the very beginning of this, I mentioned that perhaps a little bit further upstream, we should be considering what kind of an agent we wanted to attract. But then as I listened to all of the various personality styles in here, this would have been a really boring or difficult meeting if everybody was a D or if everybody was an I. So what I realize now is that perhaps we shouldn't be trying to attract the same kind of agent, because the world revolves around variety. So we really do have to learn to work with all of the styles, right? So I've sort of changed my mind a little bit there.
Well, I appreciate that, Jeff. And if you would like to have a conversation about how to really fit that into your growth plan, then I'd love to have that chat.
Okay.
Something else, something that you intend to implement.
Well, Mary Lou's aha kind of was it resonated with me because prior to an appointment I had yesterday, somebody that's dear to me called me like 5 minutes prior, and they had a situation. They were texting me, and being a D, I called them and I shut them down. And it's weird because I've been thinking about that conversation since yesterday. And so after this, I'm gonna call and make amends because being a D, I missed the mark. So thanks, Mary Lou.
Yeah. And imagine how impactful this can possibly be in your personal life and in your relationships as well. Full transparency, my girlfriend is Betsy, and she's sitting on the other side of the room from me right now. And before we even went on our first date, I asked her what her disc profile was. So yes, having that clarity within your personal relationships, your professional relationships, developing the skills and the ability to spot those behaviors and react to them appropriately, or decide that you don't want to have that behavior style in your life and move along.
I made the cut, by the way.
So thank you very much for sharing that. Jen, that's all I've got. That's all the information I have. If anybody has any additional questions, please, feel free to reach out to me or shout them out or whatever the case may be. Otherwise, I'm going to turn it back over to you. Thank you so much for giving me the time today.
Brent, this was awesome. Can we all give him a clap, a real clap? Yeah. I think that as leaders, we need to be constantly reminded about the responsibility that we have to be all things to all people. And yes, you are you, and you have your style, and people depend on you to be that way. But as leaders, especially of real estate agents, 1099 people who are depending on us to help them make money and survive this industry, guys, we have to be sensitive to that. So when Brent told me he wanted to create a class on this, first of all, I loved the topic. And second of all, who better to deliver than Brent? And if I could, Brent and I have had conversations where our personality styles have clashed, and we've both had to come back and go, okay, how can I speak in a way that you hear me, and how can I speak in a way that you hear me? So Brent and I have lived this, haven't we, Brent?
Very much so. And it is amazing when you both have clarity around this so that you can both come to the conversation looking to deliver the platinum rule.
That's right. It's been very powerful for me. So I thought this was an amazing topic for you, Brent, and I'm glad and thankful that you were able to deliver it. All right. So for those of you that are here today, I just want to say thank you for coming. We're not done yet. We here at the Locker Room we're a company devoted to growing others. And we love the opportunity to get to bring you free value. And this is exactly one of the things we do. So I want to remind you that every Wednesday at this time and at this place, we are doing master classes all around the 4 pain points that brokers and leaders have, which is growth, retention, productivity, and profitability. We know those are the 4 major of a brokerage, right? Or a team. So next week, we have the fabulous and beautiful and wonderful Katrina bringing us Cracking the Code, talking about retention. That will be next week, because the last thing we want to do is recruit a bunch of people and then watch them walk out the door because we didn't have a focus on that. So anything you want to say about that class real quick, Katrina?
Just that we'll focus on re-recruiting your agents. That will be the main theme, is just constantly, because we did one last week on recruiting through relationships. Now let's talk about re-recruiting, right? And retaining through relationships. So that'll be the focus.
Awesome. So you guys are welcome to attend and come back and be a part of that. And then, again, if you love what you've seen here and you want to know more about what the Locker Room does, we have multiple opportunities to talk about how we as an organization can partner with you to help you with yours. So in fact, right here, right now, as we transition to the 11 o'clock Eastern Time hour, I'm going to do an overview, a kind of an experience overview of what the Locker Room is and how we're partnering with leaders just like you to help you with all the things that you need in the areas of growth, retention, productivity, and profitability. So I invite you all to stick around, and
ask your questions and just join us. Again, this is a, no pressure zone. We just share what we do. And if you see yourself in it, we invite you into it. So I'm going to go ahead and transition to that if that's okay with everybody. So I'm going to actually stop recording, Brent, so that we